The army of Messmer the Impaler is made up of soldiers from the penal colonies of the lands between. Perhaps because her armies were busy waging war elsewhere, or because she knew they would never return from the land of shadow, Marika sent her son with these lesser-trained warriors in order to raise her enemies' lands. Many lost themselves to bloodlust and fire as they slaughtered the Hornsent, but there were those who were actually considered knights of this army, either taking this title with them from their homeland, or earning it for their prowess in battle. The Black Knights acted as Messmer's leads on the ground when it came to subjugating the Land of Shadow, ranking below his most trusted companions and personal attaché of Fire Knights. These fearsome knights harbored incredible strength, utilizing heavy shields and weapons imbued with gold, as well as aspects of the Crucible, likely discovered while slaughtering the Hornsent. However, while many continue to fight on behalf of the Impaler, it seems there was once dissension in their ranks. Welcome back to Elden Lore, our long-running series on the people, places, and knights of the Lands Between and the Land of Shadows. Whether this is your first time finding the channel, or you found your way here from our Elden Ring Night Rain content, it's good to have you with us. We currently have over 150 videos in our lore playlist, covering a wide variety of topics, so feel free to check it out. And if there's anything you'd like to know that isn't listed there, just reach out, as we regularly make content around what our audience wants to see. We also have a Discord, where fans of all things FromSoft hang out to talk lore, theories, and new games. If you end up enjoying the video, please consider subscribing to help us continue growing, but no pressure. We're just happy you decided to spend some time here. With that said, let's get back to the Black Knights of Messmer's army. The Black Knights can be fought all across the fields of the Land of Shadows, sometimes on horseback patrolling areas their forces have overtaken, sometimes actively fighting the inhabitants of the land, including a ghost flame dragon. Once they see us, they immediately target our Tarnished with heavy blows from their massive hammers imbued with golden light, swings of their twin blades, or massive arrows. The fact that they're found in these places with no other oversight from Messmer's higher forces shows how these knights were trusted to lead their own commands, as long as they brought purifying light down on the natives of this land. Their priority is to take territory in the name of the Impaler and the Golden Order, even if they've been completely cut off from the Lands Between. However, after reading the descriptions of their armor, it's hard to say whether or not they still care about their orders, as it's possible the only thing on their minds at this point is bloodshed. The Black Knight helm is described as a helm worn by the Black Knights, servants of Messmer the Impaler. Black iron ornamented with gold. A rotten odor stubbornly clings to it. Perhaps it arises from the tainted nature of the blood that splattered upon it. Or perhaps it is the wearer's own blackened soul, festering after endless slaughter. And their armor says, though the engraving above the heart is a scadutree design, it is etched in gold. A small consolation for those forced to wage a war without grace or honor. These armor pieces paint the picture of a group of knights who knew that the war they were going to wage would be a bloody affair, meant only to subjugate, their speck of gold being their only reminder as to why they fight. The stench of a blackened soul speaks to what's become of these knights now that they've endured so many years of senseless killing. That said, the Black Steel Great Shield shows us that the Black Knights still hold true to their convictions after all this time. Weighty shields carried by the Black Knights, servants of Messmer the Impaler, made of black steel with decorative embellishments in gold, symbolic of their iron conviction in their crusade. The Black Knights will never yield, nor will they ever doubt their purpose. This unwavering faith they have in their war drives their slaughter, and it makes it all the more surprising that some of these knights actually did rebel against Messmer after discovering the truth of their master. Black Knight Commander Andreas was once the commander of all the Black Knights under Messmer, and it would seem both he and his son Hugh saw their conviction waver when they learned of their master's curse. Andreas' ashes tell us, The Black Knights were the primary force of Messmer's army. Their first leader was Andreas, a man endowed with great strength and command over the powers of the Crucible, and whose spirit in these ashes dwell. Though he remained a devout follower of Messmer after his flight from the Erd Tree, he would rebel after learning of his liege's serpentine nature. His righteous stand was rewarded with imprisonment in an underground tomb. Hugh followed in his father's mutiny, as his ashes tell us he was second to their first knight commander, a man with agile command of both twin blade techniques and the powers of the Crucible. Though a champion of the divine beast hunt, he followed his father, Andreas, into rebellion against Messmer, and like his father, he too was imprisoned in an underground tomb. Messmer mourned the loss of a brother in arms. These descriptions tell us that no one in the lands between knew the true extent of Messmer's curse, or that he housed the base serpent within his body. Both Andreas and Hugh, much like the rest of the Black Knights, believed entirely in their cause, that the war they waged was a just one, meant to further solidify the control of the Golden Order across the lands between. So learning that the demigod son of Marika you've been following is inherently heretical came as a shock to these knights. The gold imbued in their weapons was something Messmer could never know, as he harbored no grace within him, a fact that Andreas was likely unaware of when he was placed in command of the Black Knights. Learning the truth of Messmer's serpentine nature was enough to convince him that his lord was unworthy of taking this land, and it was with this belief that he dragged his son, a champion of the divine beast hunt, who likely felled a dancing lion beast on his own, down to his level in order to further cleanse the land of shadow by cleansing it of the base serpent. The saddest part of this betrayal is that it must have caught Messmer off guard. He's said to have mourned the loss of his brothers in arms, so he likely struck the final blows against them himself, even though he saw them as trusted companions. It's unknown how many of the Black Knights Andreas and Hugh won over to their cause, as there are no spirit ashes of these knights strewn across the land. One thing we do know for sure is that there are plenty of Black Knights still chasing their original purpose, and it seems that those who rose through the ranks likely did so by mastering powers native to the land of shadow, powers of the Crucible. When exploring the Fog-Rift Fort, we can do battle with Black Knight Garu, one of the knights capable of utilizing primordial aspects of the Crucible. He carries the only aspect we cannot attain for ourselves in the form of a toad's tongue, which can lash out and hit us from a distance. Another named Black Knight, Edred, is found within the Fort of Reprimand, and has learned to utilize the wings of the Crucible, much in the way that the Crucible Knights have. In fact, upon his defeat, we can finally use this skill for ourselves in the form of an Ash of War. While it's possible that these Black Knights used to be Crucible Knights, I highly doubt it due to their size and stature. I believe these knights fought for so long against the Hornsent that they discovered their best kept secrets in communing with the Crucible, and used that very power against them. No matter the means, the Black Knights fought for the Golden Order, putting the Hornsent to the blade, regardless of whether or not they would ever see the golden honeyed rays of the lands between again. The Black Knights have every reason to fall into despair and give up their ceaseless battle, but they never do. These knights saw their crusade as their duty to the Golden Order. Led by the first son of Marika, they burned the lands of the Hornsent to the ground, while their leader and his Fire Knights found their base of operations at the Shadowkeep, along with a small number of their own order. The rest of the Black Knights continued to strike down any who would stand against them, across the entire land of Shadow. Nowhere and no one was safe from their gold-imbued hammers and twin blades. The only question left to answer about these knights is whether or not they're still in their right minds. Did the countless years of endless slaughter break them, turn them into mindless hunters out for their next kill? Or did they still retain their faculties, fighting a never-ending battle on behalf of an order that's forsaken them? Regardless of the answer, these knights continue to fight until they're cut down for good. And in this way, they are true knights of the lands between. Thank you for joining us for this breakdown of the Black Knights. Do you believe Andreas and Hugh were right to turn against Messmer? Or was their betrayal born of a misunderstanding of their lord's nature, as he never wanted to release the base serpent? Were the Black Knights once members of other factions? Or were they themselves recruited from the penal colonies, just as Messmer's soldiers were? How did these knights come to understand and utilize aspects of the Crucible? Something we've only ever seen the Crucible Knights and Tarnished able to do. Let us know your thoughts and theories in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and set notifications to all, so you never miss out on any of our lore dives. We look forward to seeing you again for more Elden Lore.